Welcome back to the Wisdom of Trauma film premiere week. We've been here already for six days
at this point.
And
wow.
It's been an incredible journey, incredible conversations. And so here it is, another we offer a treat.
Yeah, we are so excited.
Surprise.
We are so excited. I want to introduce you our guest for the next hour. It's Sia. Sia is a 9-time Grammy nominee. She has cemented her role as one of today's biggest stars, sought after songwriter and captivating live performers. Sia recently partnered with NASA for her current single, Floating Through Space, to celebrate the Ingenuity test flight on Mars. The song is off of her latest album and directorial motion picture debut, Music, which was released earlier this year. Watch that movie. We saw the trailer. It's super yummy. In 2019, she partnered with Diplo and Labyrinth to form the group LSD. Their debut album, Labyrinth, Sia, and Diplo present LSD as plus the 1 billion streams to date. She released the Grammy-nominated This Is Acting from Monkey Puzzle RCA Records in 2016 to much critical acclaim, followed by her sold-out Nostalgic for the Present World Tour. In 2017, she released the evergreen holiday collection Every Day is Christmas. She has more video in YouTube's billion views club than any other female on this planet. Along with her own successes, she has also written global smashes for today's biggest act, including Beyoncé, BTS, David Guetta, Kanye West, Rihanna, Britney Spears, Katy Perry, and Ozuna. That said, Sia, it means nothing compared to how much we felt you the first time you contacted with us. You are such a splendid,
genuine human being.
Right.
Yeah.
And our connection has been brief, but you profoundly touched us already.
Incredible gift.
Yeah, and we are delighted to have you here with us. So thank you, Sia, and thank you, Gabor, for guesting this conversation.
Thank you. That made me feel very flattered. I didn't know a lot of that stuff about myself. So thanks. That was nice to hear.
It made me feel terrible because I thought I was pretty good because one of my lectures has been seen 2.5 million times, and now you're talking about billion. How do I even come into this? So listen, I'm going to say Sia, and you know what I meant, don't you?
Yes, it means hello in Hungarian.
Hungarian expression for hello is Sia.
Is Michenas, did I remember right? My partner is Hungarian Montreal physician.
Michenas means, what are you doing?
What you doing?
Yeah, what you doing, yeah. Well, I'm talking to Sia, that's what I'm doing. So
it's a treat. It's lovely to meet you.
Well, let me begin by asking just how this even happened.
Okay. Well, I'm obsessed with attachment theory, and somebody sent me the link, and I can't even remember who it was, but somebody sent me the link to this, and I got really excited because I'm hungry for knowledge. I'm in the quest. That's my dog drinking in the background. Apologies. This loudest dog in the universe is named Stingus. My goal at the moment is not to make movies or songs or anything, but it's to earn secure attachment. That's been my goal for the last 5 years. And so when I read that, you guys were doing this, and I'm a trauma baby. So I think pretty much everyone in Hollywood, I think, we tap dance the hardest. Do you know what I mean? We tap dance the hardest, and
that brings me to, there's so many things I want to ask you, but one of them is, I'll come to what you just said about the trauma in Hollywood. I really want to explore that with you. But before I go there, I just want to talk to you personally. And, I do probe pretty directly. So if anything I ask you're not comfortable with, just let me know. Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
But you talked about being a trauma baby, and in one of your interviews, you said that there's a desperate energy about you. Now,
yeah, that was.
Now, years ago, I saw your video of Chandelier, where there's what seems to me like a younger version of yourself frantically dancing away. And there's such a desperate energy about that child, if I can put it that way, in that video. Tell me about your desperation. You say you don't have it anymore, but tell me about that child's desperation. What is that for you?
I do have it, and it does get triggered occasionally.
Yeah.
But I think I just didn't know what was wrong with me. I felt like I wasn't made for this planet. I felt
Mhm.
sensitive, hypersensitive. I couldn't maintain love, like romantic relationships for very long, like
Yeah.
2.5 years or 3 maybe. But I realized I had about 5-6 years ago. I met George Haas, who's my attachment mentor, and he's a meditation teacher. And so I started working with him, and 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 the last 6 years I've actually been more desperate than ever before, because
Mhm.
to walk through the valley of death is just like
Mhm.
so heartbreaking, when you have to let your parents go and you have to realize that they can never come back and reparent you, that you have to do it yourself, and that you know you know my family friend said that he came over one day when I was a baby and he heard me crying, and the door was locked, so he climbed in the window and he found me crying in my cot, and my dad was upstairs asleep. And so I know that happened once. So I can only imagine, because of my first attachment assessment inventory came back as unresolved, complexly disorganized. At the time, it was called fearful avoidant, complexly
Mhm.
fearful avoidant. And I was I've been addicted to alcohol, pills, benzos, you name it. Um, Love. And that's primarily what's really helped me as well, is the SLAA, this 12-step program, which that they don't use attachment language, but we're all trying to help each other. It's like 1,000 mothers in a room.
I
That's
understand.
beautiful.
The one problem I have with I mean, I love the 12 steps. I think
But
they're,
that name is the worst name ever.
yeah, but no, but the steps themselves are
Yeah,
profound. Each
yeah, yeah.
The one problem I have is they keep insisting that addiction is a disease.
Yes, I agree with you that it's an attachment disorder or an attachment
Well, well,
insect.
well, I won't even agree with that.
What do you think it is?
Well, that's what I want to ask you about. If we don't look at it as a disorder, let me ask you a question.
Yeah,
The, the alcohol, the
yeah,
pill, whatever you were using at any one time,
yeah.
what did they do for you in the short term?
Well, they were the solution. They were. They
No,
helped me survive. They
so what did they give you in the short term?
just the will to live.
Okay, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Good.
So what kind of a disorder gives you a will to live? In other words, in
Yeah,
other
it
in
was.
other words, I don't see it as a disorder. I see it as a solution to a problem.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It is, and it's. You're right. It is a solution to a problem, and it worked until
Yeah,
it didn't. And then
exactly.
you have to do the work if you want to earn secure, or you want. Do you think you're secure now?
My attachment. I've been married 52 years now.
Yeah, I think you're secure.
No, yeah, yeah, but my default setting is withdrawal.
Fearful of.
Yeah, no,
No.
and again, if we don't look at them as a disorder, like what I want to encourage here
Yeah.
is a view of these conditions not as disorders but as normal responses to life.
Strategies. Yeah, I mean, I sort of call them strategies. Not, I don't
Exactly,
view them as problems, but I view
exactly.
them as learned strategies that we learned from our caregiver.
So one of your earlier albums was entitled "Healing is Difficult."
Yeah.
Were you aware of just
Long
how?
journey.
Sorry.
What did you? I said it's been a long journey.
when you created that album, were you aware of just how big a task you'd taken on in terms of how
No,
difficult you're
I really,
so
especially when I found out how sick I mean, not sick, but the strategies that I was using and how they were not, they were skillful in the moment back when I
yeah,
needed them. They were
yeah,
helpful to me, but they were no longer working for me because they were actually keeping me from the present moment. And
mm,
I was like automatically switching into these strategies of either dismissive or fear or worry and that it was no longer or fantasy or dissociation, and that these were no longer helpful or useful to me because I wanted to be in the present moment, and
yes,
that was a joyful revelation to realize actually wanted to be here.
mm,
That
mm,
I never wanted to be here. I had always wanted to die. I had
mm.
just one very unskillful regulating thought that was like, die, lazy, fat, die, lazy, fat, die. And
Even that, even that voice, if you're compassionately curious about it, is
yeah,
trying to help you, isn't it?
yeah, for sure. It was like, get out of bed or co-regulate. Yeah. I mean, I like,
Or it's trying, or it's saying, "I want to help you stop suffering."
yeah, yeah, right.
So let's come back to your sensitivity because that's an important concept. Um, well, first of all, let me ask you, what do you mean by sensitive? What do you mean by it?
Well, like, empathetic, I guess. Also, I have Ehlers-Danlos, which I saw. I watched your talk with the vagal
Stephen?
polyvagal. Yeah, Stephen.
Yeah,
And I have Ehlers-Danlos, and
yeah,
and the last 5 years I've been in chronic pain, and I do believe that it's all trauma related, and it's fascinating. This I just find this study fascinating. But it's my sensitivity, I think, would be, I used to be, because I was spoused by both parents, I used to be a very, like, just a caretaker, and I would abandon myself and my own needs in order not to be abandoned by somebody else. So I would
that's
just
right.
try and make them very, very happy so that they wouldn't abandon me. And I now know that, you know, that I was abandoning myself.
Yes. So the sensitivity again, it comes from a Latin word to feel, sensire, to feel.
Right.
So the sensitive person just feels more,
I
and that's what it does. In itself, how many times in your life were you told not to be so sensitive?
oh just I had more of a, like, a too much schema. Dingus. This is dingus, guys. I
Oh,
like,
okay.
no, people didn't say don't be so sensitive, but it would be more like, this is too much.
Yeah,
So this
yeah.
is too
Which
much.
means that which means that we don't know how to respond to you. That's what they're
Yeah,
saying, right?
yeah. Well, you're making us uncomfortable, or
Yeah, yeah. So you're actually being made wrong
hmm
f- for your very being,
yeah,
you know, and,
existing.
and
We have a joke in my family that's sorry for being born. Whenever my curated family, so my
mm,
curated family is, Maddie, my who was the little girl in Chandelier, which you talked about, but she's like my sort of bonus daughter, is what I would say.
mm,
And we have a
mm,
joke because we're apologizers. So we started a
mm.
joke where we'd say, so if you said sorry, the other person would say, but how sorry are you? And then that person would say, sorry for being born.
Yeah, yeah.
But the
Well,
awareness it brought to
I,
us was helpful.
except sensitive people are given the impression that they're a burden on everybody else.
Uh-huh. I've
You
definitely
know,
had that. I mean, until very recently.
yeah. Now they. Well, first of all, let me just pause for a moment here, and just for the audience. So here you are. and ostensibly, and you have so much that anybody would want:
Mm-hmm.
achievement, creative capacity, fame, adulation,
Mm-hmm.
money, everything, and
None.
none of that keeps you from suffering.
Nope. None of it matters. It's all an
Yeah,
inside job. It's just a. It. I thought it would. I did.
yeah,
That's why I tap
yeah,
danced all the way here. But
yeah,
it doesn't. What brings
yeah.
me peace is living a meaningful life, like making things about, I don't know, experiences and trying to be present, even when it's
Mm.
difficult. My son OD'd yesterday on meth, and I got him into detox today. Um, it's
This is one of your adopted kids.
Yeah, it's been like the
Yeah.
hardest week of
Oh my God.
like holding my like boundary, but
Oh,
I did it. And I'm like
yeah.
really proud of myself that my heart wanted to do something else, wanted to rescue him. My conditioning wanted to rescue him. But I just kept holding my bottom line and it worked. And I'm like just very grateful to George, really, to George Haas, because I don't think I'd be where I am without like having learned to sit in the suffering and just allow the pool to get smaller and smaller. Like it's like it chips away. There's this big, deep chasm of pain. And it's just like every time I let a feeling be and just observe it and let it be, it's like the pool shrinks a little bit. It doesn't
Mm.
mean I still have a pool. It's still there. But I know I'm getting to secure. I'm there. I'm getting there. But yeah, it's been a rough week, and again, like my conditioning wants me to caretake everybody, but I have to be an Al-Anon ninja, and like it's
Well,
just
let me pause.
we all we have
Let me
real
just
lives.
let me just pause for a moment to pay respect to the suffering that you just went through with your son,
Thank you,
and the pain that's present for you now, even when you think about it,
thank you.
and and also to your presence through it all. You know, that's a huge victory, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing. I I couldn't have done it before.
Yeah.
I thought feelings would kill me. I thought that I could die from feelings. That's what I thought.
You know, and even that,
Thank you, sweetie. I love you.
even that fear of dying from feelings, you earned that as well, because when you were in that crib crying on your own, can
Oh,
you imagine? Can you imagine what you might have felt and how devastating
I
that would have been?
die. I know
Yeah.
now that I understand now. Do you agree with this? That what happens is that we go into limbic shutdown and we drop all these neurochemicals and we think we're going to die. And so when we have this neuroception of anything that's like that, when we get older, if we sense that something is happening like that, a kind of being left alone to die, it drops all the same neurochemicals and it's like we're a tiny baby again. And it's really
Well,
hard.
let me give
Yeah,
you an example of that. Let me give you an example of that about this. What's the attachment style that you mentioned?
originally I was I've actually got better, but originally I was unresolved, disorganized, complexly disorganized, fearful,
And
avoid.
avoidant. Okay, yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. So let me tell you a story.
Okay.
Um, I'm 77 now. So
Oh,
so 5 years ago, at the tender age of 72, I arrived home from a speaking trip to the airport, and I landed in Vancouver at the airport, and my wife's supposed to pick me up, and instead, when I arrive, I get a text saying, "I haven't left home yet. Do you still want me to come?" And
I heard you tell this story.
oh, you heard the story. I want to repeat it. So I immediately withdraw.
Yeah.
I immediately withdraw. And it's like you say, I'm not in the all of a sudden I'm not in the present. All of a sudden I'm a 1-year-old again,
Yes.
separated from mother.
Yes. It's just offline. It's like I call it going offline. It's just the
Yeah.
way that I start to frame it.
And
Like I'm not online. I'm not present. I'm back there.
yeah.
And all
Well,
the same neurochemicals are dumped into my system, and it
yeah.
takes at least 20 minutes to be able to meditate through and get rid of those neurochemicals to even
Hmm.
become like a sane person again, like not even sane, but just to become me at this age again.
I know that very well. And Stephen Porges, whose interview you just referred to, was saying that our internal physiological state actually gives us our view of the world. That
Our
when
again,
our
our what?
our internal physiological state determines our view of the world at that moment.
I would 100% agree. It's a distorted reality.
Yeah, and that's trauma. So let me ask you this: so you talk about Hollywood, and Hollywood has always been seen as this dream factory.
Yeah.
That that so much of it is distracting for people from reality.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to the 30s when all the movies were designed to take people off the depression, temporarily put them into a fantasy world. And yet, as we find out over and over again, it's created by really traumatized people.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering what connection you've made between trauma and Hollywood and creativity.
Uh-huh. Well, I mean, I can tell you that I'm grateful that I had the childhood I had, which is I could never have said 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I was still upset and angry and resentful.
Hmm.
Now I'm grateful because I know that it informs my work and it allows me to attune to other people who are in pain, and and I'm grateful that I'm able somehow for some reason, whatever I'm conveying seems to be received by other people in pain,
Yeah.
and so I'm grateful in terms of I try and tell the truth, and also the most of my songs are also I try and tell the truth in songs. Sometimes I'm just writing for someone else or it's just a silly song, but most of the time there are letters to myself about how to stay alive, like how to keep
Hmm.
going.
Hmm.
Just like
Hmm.
because I until recently really I'd had that suicidal ideation that was always going on uh, when
What
I
makes what makes you so incredibly open about discussing this stuff?
have nothing to hide, and that's the greatest place I've ever been.
Hmm.
I I'm social media clean. I
Hmm.
love backlash for my movie, and it hurt so bad that I had to go
Hmm.
to rehab
Hmm.
for trauma because it was like it was like reliving my childhood being rejected, like
Yeah.
just by everybody, like, or having people be cruel, or so I had to go into rehab, and I stopped looking at anything online, um,
Hmm.
except eBay, and and it was the greatest thing I've ever done, and that was maybe 10 weeks ago. And so I'm talking to you now as a person I would talk to in my living room because
Yes.
I'm never going to see the people's response to this. I don't need to. I don't.
Hmm.
I don't need to hide anything because, like, you're gifted at what you do. This is a gift to be able to have this conversation with you. And why on earth would I ever hide anything when
Hmm.
this is like such an opportunity? Like, I think personally, thank you for your work.
Well, thank you. Now, speaking of which, You've been diagnosed with a whole range of conditions. We've talked about the addiction,
Yeah.
but there's also been medical issues, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, I think, thyroid storm that was originally mistaken for panic attacks.
Yeah.
Um,
Graves.
you've also been told you have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
Yeah.
Now, you've talked about how early in life you suppressed yourself to take care of others,
Uh-huh.
and that was your survival mechanism. Now, I've written a book called When the Body Says No, the argument of which is when people don't know how to say no to other people's demands, the body will say it in the form of physical illness.
Yeah.
So I'm
And
arguing that your thyroiditis actually was your body saying no.
I would agree with you. It was right when I started to get famous.
Hmm.
I was not, I was like uncomfortable with it.
Can I ask you, before you got the thyroiditis, was your body sending you signals that you're kind of ignoring?
Yes. Well, I was shaking,
Yes.
diarrhea, like all sorts. And that's what they thought I had a panic disorder. And so they started giving me, uh,
I know, I understand, but even before the onset of that particular condition, had your body sent you signals in terms of fatigue or
yes,
insomnia?
fatigue,
Yeah.
fatigue.
And what did you do with that signal?
Ignored it and kept
Yeah.
touring.
Yeah. And that's when your body then comes along and says no in a bigger way, saying, I'm just,
Like
yeah. So sounds like you've learned about that. Sounds like you learned for your body now.
I have been doing somatic work and I've been trying to learn about that. I scream into a pillow occasionally.
Mm.
But yeah,
And how does
cellular.
the, how does the, how does the pillow feel about that?
The pillow doesn't mind. I make sure I do it into the pillow because I don't want to scare my dogs. So it's still there. I'm still caretaking, but I'm able to really. I never realized how angry I was.
Uh-huh.
I thought I was just sad because I'd always go under anger straight to the sadness. And then I just recently started screaming into the pillow, and it
Mm.
was I went hoarse. Became
Mm.
hoarse from the the passion with which I was angry. It was like the stage before limbic shutdown. I think
Yes.
it was like tantrum stage, the screaming, the blood curdling screaming before the baby stops, and
Wow.
everyone thinks, oh, it worked, and it
Yeah.
didn't work. The baby just thinks it's dying,
The
and
baby
it's
gives
now
up. I know.
gives up.
You know, in this society, parents are told to let their babies cry themselves to sleep.
Oh,
And these babies cry and cry, then they go to sleep, and everybody says it worked. What actually
oh,
worked is that the baby's system just shuts down, gives up.
I think it's horrific.
Yeah.
And now that I understand it, it's first like tell me if you agree with this, that it's something like a baby when it wants attention and it will look cute, then it will look confused if it doesn't get attention, then
Yeah.
it'll whimper, then intermittent crying,
Yeah.
then crying, then
Yeah.
tantrum, then big shutdown. Is that
Exactly.
right?
That's
So
about it. Yeah. Yeah. That's
so I
right.
think what I'm doing in my therapy now is I'm going backwards. So like I
Mm.
just started tantruming,
Good for you.
and I think that bless you, that's my other dog Mitzi.
Mm.
Um, I believe, yeah. I mean, I'm still on the journey, man.
You too. You know what? Have, have you ever heard about my epitaph? I've written my epitaph. It's going to
You
be
have
great. Yeah, I have. Yeah.
what?
It's
What is it? Because I've got mine too.
Do
What's
you? Okay, well
yours?
let's share epitaphs, okay? Mine's gonna say on my gravestone, it was a lot more work than I had anticipated.
Mine
What's
was
yours?
going to that was hard. That was
Yeah.
fun. That was fun.
But
That was
some
hard. That was fun.
uh-huh. Okay, well there we are.
Yeah.
Um I'm gonna come back to the anger
Yeah.
because in my research, like Hashimoto's is an autoimmune disease where the immune system attacks the body itself. Now, the
Yes.
biggest finding that I came across in studying people with autoimmune disease is the repressed rage. in childhood, that anger, that childhood anger that you talked about, when there was nobody there to receive it, or when it threatened your relationship with your caregivers, what can you do with it? You have to repress it.
Yes. And because my caregiver was too fragile, I
Yeah.
had to, I literally came out of the vagina and just was like, how can I take care of you?
Wow.
It was like, I mean, I never had any other feelings until this last 5 years. Was just always like, how can I take care of you, to whoever I was in a relationship with, at,
Hmm.
at the total cost of my own sanity, of my health. You know, I abandoned myself just terribly.
Well, again, I want to reframe that a little bit.
Okay, tell me what you think that is. That's nice.
That self-abandonment was your best way of taking care of yourself,
Yeah. Okay.
because it kept the relationships going, without which you could not have survived as a child.
Yeah. Yes. You're right. I did it so they wouldn't be abandoned.
That's right.
Right. Yeah.
And as you point out, the problem is that these early coping mechanisms then create problems later on.
Yes.
But originally, they all had a valid purpose.
Totally. Skillful. I was a really big fantasist, so I think that's why became creative as well, is because I was dissociated a lot, but also
Yeah.
you can see, like, in photos of me when I'm little, there's the total blank affect. Like, I've got, like, it's just dissociated baby.
Me too. Me
Yeah.
too. My photographs of the kid, I'm always absent, like I'm not even there.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's haunting actually now to look at. And
Hmm.
I didn't see it at first, but George showed me,
Hmm.
and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Now it feels haunting in a way. But
Now I want to come back. Now I want to come back to your creativity. Um, the studies show that there are genes for sensitivity. Like, people think there's genes for all these diseases. There are very few diseases and no mental illnesses that are genetic, but absolutely none. But um, like, certainly with Ehlers-Danlos, there's some genes involved.
yeah,
But with most medical conditions, there's no genes. But there are genes for sensitivity,
that's
and
makes sense.
and and the same genes for sensitivity that create more suffering, because the more sensitive you are, the the more you feel, the
Yeah,
more pain you feel. But those same genes also makes you so much more creative.
yeah, and also I can experience joy as well.
Yeah,
Sometimes I
yeah.
don't even know how to regulate that feeling. Like, I
Uh,
can be too
uh-huh,
happy,
uh-huh.
and I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? Like, yesterday I found out that my partner is prototypically secure,
Mm,
and I was like, the holy grail, the holy grail. I can't believe it. I found someone who was secure at the age of 43. I'm 45.
mm,
And
mhm,
I wanted to throw a party. Like, I was so happy. Um,
mm.
and then, and then I was like, what do I do? What do I do? And so before this, I got a massage because I was like trying to come back into the window of tolerance. Even when I feel joy, sometimes it turns into almost a panic.
I understand. When I was in my own addictive behaviors, two things could trigger it. One of them is when I was especially stressed, but also when I was especially feeling up and happy. I didn't know what to do with that energy.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, to contain that.
Yeah. How do you contain it now?
Well, you know what? There's benefits to becoming 77. Like, as I often say, I'm glad I'm 77, because I want to be as young and stupid as I was when I was 76. So as you there's more self-regulation. I've been working at this for a long time, and I'm also thankfully I'm in a relationship
Yes.
that helps to regulate me.
Me
You know,
too. And finally, with someone secure, I just
yeah.
can't. He was kind enough to take an attachment assessment inventory at my behest. So,
Well, yeah, but the thing is, it's not just the other person; it's also you, because at
yes.
a certain time you would not have even gone for somebody who's secure.
No, I was repulsed and I wanted to run away, and I pushed
Yeah,
through. I pushed
right.
through. It was so
Yeah,
hard. I
yeah.
realized the thing about it was that when I wanted to run away and when I was repulsed and wanted to run away, actually I was in abandonment terror.
Yeah.
And what I needed to do was the thing I thought would make me feel more smothered was actually the thing that made me feel safe. And that was I called him and asked for reassurance.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
never knew you could ask for reassurance. I never knew that that was a reasonable expectation in a relationship, that you can ask, hey, like, what's our status? Or at
Yeah.
the end of a date that you can say, how was it for you? So you're not thinking about it for the next 48 hours, wondering if they like you. And
Hmm.
you're like, do I like them? And also, how you just know because you can ask, how was it for you? I never knew you could do that. I had no idea. I never knew you could ask for reassurance. You could say, I'm feeling insecure. I think I'm in abandonment terror. Like, can you just reassure me? And having that reassurance made me feel safe. And suddenly that whole repulsion and the wanting to run in the avoidance, I guess, just lifted.
You're making me. You're making me think of. You probably heard of this group. It was a bit before your time, but they were called the Beatles. And there's this song, "Help." When I was younger, so much younger than today, I never needed anybody's help in any way.
Yeah,
But now I'm older. I'm not so. I'm more insecure now. I can actually ask for help now,
yeah.
and that help is a sign of that
Health.
that that capacity to ask for help is a sign of maturation.
I feel really good about today.
Yeah, well, that's good. Um, I was going to ask you about something else.
Yeah, whatever you want.
Yeah, well, plenty.
Yeah.
Um, at some point, you talked about "It Gets Better." Do you have a song called "It Gets Better"? I think. Do you not?
Um.
An
Oh
album,
no, it was a saying. It was actually coined by someone else in the gay community.
but it was
I love you, keep going, but that one was from George. It was from
okay.
George. I like saying I love you, keep going, but it gets better was coined by someone from the LGBTQIA
Okay,
community.
and
And
that's what I was going to ask you about, because
okay,
when you were talking about "It Gets Better," you were talking about your capacity to learn to love yourself.
yes,
And you were talking about that specifically in the LGBTQ context, which is fair enough, because that's a population that gets so many negative messages. But isn't
yes,
it true for all of us? Like
yes,
that sort of coming out as ourselves.
yes,
Never mind what gender isn't that
yes,
just the isn't that just the biggest challenge that we all face?
yes. I would say, as someone who had never had an intimate relationship until I got sober, like
Yeah.
really realized I'd never ever shown anyone who I truly was.
Yes.
I've been so afraid of rejection. And then sitting in a room full of strangers, I was rock bottom and I just was started telling the truth. And it was just so liberating to have them just there holding space, witnessing it, laughing when appropriate, and at
Hmm.
the at the sickest, darkest things, the
Hmm.
things I thought I'd get shamed for.
Hmm.
It was so liberating.
Does it surprise you that all the things that you might have been ashamed of sometime, you're owning them and you're talking about them and you're embracing them actually gets you so much more appreciation in the world?
I did. I mean, I don't think about that. It's not why I do it. But
Yeah, no, I understand that.
But I mean, it is fascinating. I hope that's the case. See, I don't know, because the way the world is right now, I don't know. I don't know
Mm.
if that's going to be the case. But yeah, in the past, sharing truthfully and honestly was good for me, and it created an intimacy between me and my audience, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's like every day is a little bit like your epitaph. It's harder work than you'd expected.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
sometimes you'll just have a blissful day, and even that's sometimes tricky to regulate, like emotionally, But right now, today, I'm having a really great day,
Oh.
and super grateful for all of the suffering,
Mm.
all of the addictions, for all of the unskillful behaviors that were it's in order for me to survive, and the fact that I'm here now today in relationship to someone secure, to me is like a reason to throw a party. Like, I don't throw birthday parties, but I would throw a party for this reason, just for
Mm.
this reason.
Mm.
That's what I want to do. And when I say party, I mean with my 10 best friends.
Yeah. I understand.
Yeah.
Your face. Um, I know that for a while I don't know if you still do it, but for a while you made a point of not showing your face, and partly that was just a practical thing. You didn't want to be
Yeah.
hounded and surrounded by paparazzi and or that, But was there anything more to it? Is there anything more about your relationship to your face
Yeah.
that you
I think I
discovered?
was worried about being ugly. And I think that, and I think also, I think, like, I would say to people when they'd say, "You're beautiful, don't wear the mask," I'd say, it's not about that. It's just I don't want to be famous. But I think there was definitely actually a part of me that was like, it's safer. It's safer in here. It's
Mm.
safer if I'm just a mouth. Um,
Mm.
then maybe people won't say, well, she needs a nose job, or she needs this, that, or the other, or, you know, um, and the lengths that we go to in this industry is pretty phenomenal. I've had liposuction twice on my double chin, thinking that I had a double chin, and it turned out to be muscles that I used to sing.
Mm.
Like,
Mm.
I was so insecure. I had liposuction on my stomach, and it went wrong, and it looks like someone threw a hammer into my guts. And also, that was the beginning of my chronic trauma, this chronic 5-year phase, the chronic illness. And because I harmed myself,
Yeah.
that it's brutal if you see it, like, if you watch it on a YouTube or whatever, what they do when they're sucking the fat out of your body, it's so brutal.
Yeah.
And I did that to myself because I was insecure.
Wow.
And it's just, you know, yeah, I just don't. I finally, I'm stopping doing anything. I mean, I don't think I'll do anything. I don't know. Maybe I will.
You mean I can stop with the Botox and all that?
Well, it's
Uh,
interesting. I was going to say about the Botox, because, when you talk about the smile in the eyes,
yeah.
and I was like, I wonder if because I had Botox, and I was like, I wonder if it's worn off. And I was
Oh.
like, whether my smile is going to look like a real smile, or if it's going to look like a weird smile. I remember thinking that when
I
I was
don't know how
listening
you,
to talk.
I don't know how you feel about this, but when I look at these Botox Hollywood faces, I'm just so turned off. I
Yeah,
want to I want to see a real person.
yeah.
I don't I don't want to
You.
see sorry?
I'm with you, but I just am insecure, and so I think that's what
Yeah.
I'm supposed to do, right? I think
Yeah.
that's what I'm supposed to be. I think that I have to keep up and I don't know. I had this idea that I had to be beautiful in order to be a pop star.
In other words, you had to depend on what other people thought of you in order to be, I don't, do you happen to know who Thomas Merton was?
No, tell me.
Okay, well, Thomas Merton was a Catholic monk and a mystic. And he wrote this book called The Seven Story Mountain back in 1948 or something. And he talked about what a strange way to be is when you're living always in other people's minds. Like we always live our lives as if
Yeah,
we live, what other people thought of us is what really matters.
yes. And even I'll say, even when until like recently, I tried weed like
Yeah.
during the pandemic. So
Yeah.
that's considered a relapse. So I relapsed. That's nobody knows that, but I relapsed during the pandemic.
Okay.
And it was horrific. I hated weed because what it did is it put me into my best friend's mind state. I was like,
Mm.
is he enjoying MasterChef Junior? Is this okay? Is this okay for him? Is this? And I became completely preoccupied, and I was in his mind state, and I couldn't get out of it. And it was so uncomfortable, and I didn't enjoy it at all. And it was like my very early childhood. It was reminding me of my very early childhood when I was always just trying to decipher what was going on and make sure that I could keep everything together so that I could get my needs met.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Let me move to something else. So first of all, so you heard the interview yesterday with Stephen Porges,
I
and
did.
okay, so you heard our point of view that chronic pain is actually not about the physical underpinnings of it, but one's history of trauma and emotional relationship. And now most physicians don't know that. So chronic pain to them is just a physical problem.
Yeah.
Now, but the beauty of this point of view is that it's completely reversible. If
Yeah.
you start dealing with the emotional issues, you don't
Yeah.
have to stay on pills for the rest of your life. Now,
Yeah.
here's my
That's the
question to you.
dream. Because I right now I'm on buprenorphine, which is like
Yeah,
is what they
yeah,
give you when you don't want to be on opiates. And
yeah,
I didn't want to. I just couldn't be on opiates because I was trying to be a sober woman, and it was
yeah,
so stressful.
yeah.
And um, but what I have done now, I don't know if you're is I've experimented with IV ketamine,
Hmm.
and it's taken me on a journey. I haven't had anyone guiding me, but it's taken me on a journey, and it felt like I was healing myself during that. And I've done that, quite a lot. And I think probably 20 times I've done it in the last 2 years,
Hmm.
and that really has helped me with the pain. And I wonder if I could come off the buprenorphine now. Because of course you want to be on nothing.
Yeah.
Of course you do. But while I was
Well,
dealing with this trauma, I also had to be prescribed Valium because I was so suicidal. Um,
well, as we're talking, there's like two parts of me here that I noticed showing up. One is sort of the physician slash healer that just wants to come in and give you all kinds of advice, okay? And but then there's the fact that I'm actually here to hear you and to you, not to give you my perspectives on things. So I want to carry on with that track. But if
well,
you want, but if you want to,
I'd really love to hear your perspective.
here's what I would suggest. If you want, is
Yes,
any anytime you want to have a conversation just with you and I, we could do that.
thank you. Thank
Okay.
yes,
All you need to do is ask for it, okay?
thank
And so I'll spare the advice now, but I'm open to it if you want it, okay?
thank you.
Uh, uh, I want to ask you something else now.
Okay.
In all the years that you went to doctors and you were diagnosed with Hashimoto's or bipolarity
Yeah.
or anxiety or this or that or addictions or this or that, did anybody ever say to you what happened to you as a kid?
Yeah, I had therapists. I have been
No,
in therapy.
I mean the medical doctors.
Oh, no. Oh, not true. My most recent doctor, Dr. Renner, who is in his 70s also, and he's more of a holistic, he has more of
Okay.
a holistic, and he actually I think he meditates, and I saw the book, the Shinzen's book in the movie, and George is one of Shinzen's what do you call it, students. There we go.
But what I'm getting at is the medical doctors that you saw.
They no only Dr. Renner.
Okay, what would it have meant to you if at the time of any of these diagnoses somebody said, this could be a response to trauma and stress, and can we look at that side of things? What about the had a physician said that to you?
Yeah,
What might that have that meant to you at the time?
I think it probably would have been meaningful.
Yeah,
I think I might have felt seen
yeah,
in
yeah,
a different way.
yeah. Isn't it amazing that on the one hand we have all this science that shows the connection, and on the other hand we have doctors who are just not trained to recognize the connections?
Yeah.
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 No. I want to come back to the question of creativity again. There's almost an idea out there that people have to suffer in order to be creative.
Oh no, I hate that idea.
So talk about, because so many people, creative people, have suffered. But
Yeah.
what can you say about that?
I just want to say that it's not true.
Yeah.
It's not true. It's a lie.
Hmm.
Um, it's just a lie, and it's a lie that I think we tell ourselves so we can stay using old strategies that aren't
Hmm.
useful, um,
Hmm.
but that we're comfortable in, that we know our
Hmm.
conditioning, because working against my conditioning was the absolute hardest thing I've ever done. And that's what I've been doing for the last 5 years, is just literally working against my conditioning. And it's painful. It's so painful. And having to sit in it while not doing what I would normally do is painful. It's
Hmm.
laborious
Hmm.
and just so hard. Um, but the other side is bliss.
Hmm.
And I'm just as creative. I'm equally as creative when I'm happy as when I'm sad.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Well,
I'm equally well received. The songs that I write when I'm happy are equally well received as the songs that I write when I'm sad.
when you write and when you create, are you coming from where you happen to be at that moment, or do you
Yeah.
separate yourself and say, my job is to create something here. I don't care how I'm feeling right now.
I just channel, so I don't know what you would say. Like, I would say I get out of the way and I
Hmm.
just see what comes out.
You know what that reminds me of? Do you know who Nijinsky was? And
Oh,
Nijinsky was a great Russian ballet dancer.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so he would execute these incredible leaps on stage. And he was asked once, "How can you do that?" He says, "I don't do it." He says,
Yeah.
When Nijinsky's there, that leap is impossible."
It's true. That's
Huh.
what it's like for me anyway. I know everyone's process is different, but for me, if I'm there, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
If I get into like if I just get out of the way, it's like channeling. The chords, I get the chords usually first, and I just sing the melody over, and I'm sort of bloobity
Hmm. Hmm.
and and then I pull words out from the bloobity bloobles, and
Hmm.
and that and it's
That,
all. I think it's all like it's being given to me. I don't
that,
take credit for it.
isn't that something? It reminds me of what Paul McCartney said once about when he wrote "Yesterday," that
Yeah.
song, and he said it just came to me, and there was no words. I started singing to myself, ham and eggs, da 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 da. Well, listen, it's been wonderful to meet you and to speak with you. I'd like
Is it
to,
our time? Is it really? Wow, that flew by.
yeah. Um, I mean, I could talk forever, but which is another issue, which I'll maybe mention to you. But I just want to, as we bring it to a close, um, really what I'm getting from you is the tremendous, and it's not just from you, but it's certainly is very, it shines from you, which is just the capacity of the human soul for wholeness and healing and coming together.
I mean, if there's anything that I would like to share with the world, it's that.
Yeah.
Like
So,
there's a solution and it's connection.
So I was just going to ask you about that. Just what can you say about that? What can you tell people about that?
Well, it's the only meaning that I found in life, and the way to heal myself is through connection and through vulnerability. And yeah, and I know that, that if I want to if I want to do acting out of any sort, if I want to self-harm, if I want to do any of those things, that all I need to do is call somebody that I can trust and love, and that is a safe person for me, and ask them to talk to me, tell me a story, talk to them. We don't even have to talk about what the thing is that I'm upset about. We just have to talk for 20 minutes, probably face to face. Next, or FaceTime is next best, which is why I was like, hey, let's do this in person, and then realized you weren't in town. But because the value of that 20 minutes of co-regulation is so powerful that I find myself not wanting to do the old behavior, to use the old strategy, and I can be in the present moment, and that's again that's a real gift, I think.
And the lesson I draw from what you're saying goes back to my talk with Stephen Porges yesterday, who said that safety isn't just the absence of threat; it's actually the presence of connection.
Yeah.
And the whole task that we have in this life, which is in this culture, which is what my next book is about, is so difficult. But the whole task that we have is, how do we make the world safe enough for one another to be ourselves? So, listen, my heart is full. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you so much. As I like to say, I love you. Keep going.
Thank you. And you too.
Thing to feel.
And anytime you want to talk to me, really, it's an open invitation for you.
I really appreciate that. That nearly made me cry. I just thought, oh no, it'll hold up the interview. So I kept them for later.
Okay, we'll do it later. Okay. Well, thank you again.
You're welcome. I appreciate you. And thank you to Maurizio and also Zaya, because I know that this wouldn't have happened without them. And wow, let's spread the word. Trauma babies can make it too.
We can make it.
We can make it too.
Wow, what a rich, heart-wrenching opening conversation. And thank you for helping us kind of witness you in your journey of reclaiming yourself. It's such a privilege and inspiration, I think, for me. I don't know for others, but
for most people.
I was going through tears and laughter, and I just feel my heart so wide open.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad I could be of service.
You've already done a lot of service.
Well, it's the meaning of life. We're connecting now, and I love that.
Yeah. And you're just giving the permission to so many, to me, to trust my own vulnerable heart, which has been so hard to share. It's been
scary.
so scary. Yeah, so scary.
Yeah, because that abandonment terror kicks in, and it's just so scary.
Yeah, for the good part of first half of my life, I did not want to be here. I did not want to leave. Yeah, I wanted to be out very early. At 13, I was like, I'm done. This is it. There's no point here.
I really,
But
wow.
on
Glad
the edge,
you're here. I'm glad you're
you're
still here.
still here. And when I was on the edge of leaving, I was like, no, I want to leave. There was like, for the first
Little
time,
voice.
I felt in that moment, I felt like, no, I want to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the voice that pulled me out and carried me to this day. I don't know where it came from,
Me
but
too. It's just a little voice that's like, I want to live.
yeah,
I want to live.
yeah,
I think it's probably the healthy person inside of you, I guess, because we must all have a healthy person.
I
I don't
don't
know.
know. But it was so faint and yet so powerful that I'm still here.
I'm
And that's
so happy.
right. Yeah, yeah. Thank
And
you.
yeah, for everyone who's suffering, you're not alone.
Yeah,
You're not alone.
yeah,
Yeah. All this facade that we create and hide in our pain and we all want to look like positive. And how are you?
Yeah,
Good.
I couldn't maintain that. I tried. I did that for 10 or so years at the beginning of my career. It was like, oh, she's the quirky one. She's quirky and but I couldn't maintain it. It was totally unmaintainable. I was exhausted. And that's when I started to hide my face because I think I just was like, I don't think I have the energy to be famous.
you were so far from your own,
From your truth.
from your true self. Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
that's what,
yet not. So far and yet not,
yeah,
right?
it's been a very helpful to me that I did it because it sends a kind of message that just says, could you please just let me be a normal, just a normal person? I think like it sends a pretty clear message that I am not interested. I don't want to be famous, and it makes me uncomfortable.
You know, in the movie, we had a sequence about pop culture. I don't know, if Gabor, if you saw that version. And we took it out, and I'm really sad about it because Gabor talked about it, how we kind of suck up to that culture and we don't see the pain, the human suffering that is driving. We just consume the fame and don't see what's the cost for that. So I'm kind of sad we didn't, that sequence
Maybe
didn't
we
make
put it
it
back.
to the
Yeah,
final cut. Did you see it, Gabor? Do you remember?
I'm going to help you with the sound. So why don't you just send it and we'll put it back in the movie?
Right. Now it makes sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in researching my book, I looked at the lives, this new book. I didn't end up including it. It was just too much. But all these wonderful, creative, expressive, soulful artists like an Aretha Franklin
Hmm.
or a Presley or a Whitney Houston or Kurt Cobain, we kind of suck off their energy, but we don't recognize their pain,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah,
And
it's a pretty weird place to be, but I put myself here.
but
Um,
you're conscious, you're much more conscious at this point than
yes,
many people are. Yeah.
yeah. I thank God. I nearly swore.
That's fine.
Yeah, such a oh,
you, you
so
can swear.
yummy.
Thank fuck. Thank fuck.
Yeah.
Thank thank
Well,
thank fuck.
yeah,
Thank.
well, you actually said that in one of your interviews. That holy fuck, what was I thinking about? I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm a cursor. I mean, I'm trying now because a lot of my friends have children, so I'm trying to learn how to curse it.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm so glad that I got to do this, you guys, and I really hope that you get to more and more people to just understand about trauma and have a more trauma informed even more trauma-informed 12-step program, a more trauma-informed, like, physicians, like, I don't know, just a more trauma-informed world.
Yeah.
I would,
Hollywood. More trauma
that's
from Hollywood. That's another
yeah,
one. Now we
trauma
can
in
actually
Hollywood, for sure. Yeah, I'm going to start a little business called Mother Nurture, and it's going to be what I felt like I needed during my journey. And it's like you can call someone and they'll come and bring you soup and just hold your hand and not talk to you, but unless you want to talk to them, but offer co-regulation, really. And then also, you know, some other things.
beautiful.
But I couldn't believe there wasn't a service like that when I was so desperate.
That's beautiful.
That's beautiful.
We have it in our town, but only for people with cancer. We go. There's a like communal kitchen. You cook and you deliver. But that's
For
beautiful.
people in
For
pain.
anyone in
And then
pain.
we charge the rich people a lot of money so we can subsidize the poor people.
Yeah,
That's what we're going to do. That's the plan anyway.
sounds great.
All right.
Okay.
You guys are great. I'm really, really happy we did this, and thanks for having me.
Thank you.
It's such a joy and an honor, Sia. Such a joy and an
you.
honor. You are a precious human being.
It's so nice to have a fucking real conversation with somebody. Like,
Yeah, Gabor is not good at chit-chatting. Which I love about you, Gabor. You're not good at chit-chat.
me
That's
too. It's so boring. Yeah.
I was
Thank-
never much good at small talk. Actually, I never know what people talk about when they make small talk. You know, I don't get it.
It's so for me, it's almost intolerable.
Well, listen, I'm going to go. I hope we talk again.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you again. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Gabor.
Thank you, Gabor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sia. Ciao.
Ciao, ci vedremo.